Back by popular demand, it's the voiceover. What's up, everybody? It's good to be back, messing around in my 140-gallon aquarium, which is an ongoing project of amassing essentially the biggest collection of plants I can get to grow into one aquarium. I have no idea what it's at right now. It has been a while since I have done any kind of count to be able to tell you exactly how many plants are in here. But needless to say, it is becoming extensive. But one of the biggest things that I have to do with this aquarium is constantly trim, and of course add fertilizer, because just look at this mess. The Pogostemon stellatus octopus definitely grows pretty much still the fastest out of everything in this aquarium. It is by far and away the biggest nitrate hog out of here. It's pretty much the main thing that I'm fertilizing realistically, just so that everything else has enough fertilizer to continue to grow. But I'm happy with the progress so far. I'll give you guys the quick stats if you're new to the channel on what is in this aquarium. The substrates is ADA Amazonia, Fluval stratum, and fluorite black sand. Those are kind of the main three substrates that are in here. The lights are the Fluval Fresh and Plant 3.0. I am running a big sump on this. Yes, I'm injecting CO2. And that's probably the breakdown that really matters. The fertilizer that I'm currently using is the all-in-one comprehensive Easy Green from Aquarium Co-op. So shout out to Aquarium Co-op. Hey, it's a quarantine out there. If you need to get some stuff, spin over to Aquarium Co-op. Hashtag, buy some stuff, right? Overall, the maintenance on this aquarium is just sort of never ending. And one of the reasons for that is because there are so many different types of plants in here that on any given day, I could probably come in here and spend about a half an hour trimming back overgrowth, replanting stuff, repositioning plants, moving stuff around. And personally, I find that to be an enjoyable situation. I don't know about you guys out there, but I appreciate just the health factor of being able to get my hands in here, play around with plants, be in the space for at least a half an hour a day. I typically don't go over 2 hours a day in the fish room. I just don't have that much time to be able to dedicate to messing around in there. So that gives you kind of an idea, even with all of the tanks, all the plants, the fish, the shrimp, all that stuff I got going on. It really, at maximum, adds up to about 15 hours a week, doing supplementary water changes. People ask me how often I do my water changes. About once every 2 weeks on every tank. So I currently have 6 tanks running in the fish room, and I sort of just alternate which tanks I'm doing on what day, so I don't ever do them all at the same time. That can become a real big mess of attempting to do all of your water changes all at the same time, and I find it to be a little too laborious for me to jump into on a regular basis. Our second plant of the day during this little aquascaping / maintenance extravaganza would be the LUDWIGIA PANTANAL, a very interesting plant that I've been messing with for the last couple of months. I will do a feature on this plant probably a month from now, something like that, once after I've had it in my tanks for approximately a good amount of time to be able to tell you guys how I've been dealing with it. But right now, as you can see, it's grown completely up to the top of the tank. That is almost the easiest way to know whether or not I need to trim a plant, is once it's about to break the surface. This is a 24-inch tall tank, so you get an idea of how overgrown the kind of plants can be. That means it's time to give them a trim. With these plants, it's very simple doing maintenance on them. Trim them down at the base, allow them to re-sprout because I'm propagating them. It's not because that's the only way to do it. It's because I'm currently propagating this plant because I do want to have more of it. So that's the process here. If you're trying to propagate, trim and leave the little roots down in the substrate, take the tops, and then go ahead and replant the tops. Obviously, I use my toothbrush method whenever I do find a little bit of hair algae or something like that, cluttering up the area. This is literally just a dollar store super cheap toothbrush. So hot tip out there, even though we can't go to a dollar store right now, maybe you could find some 25-cent toothbrushes on Amazon or something like that. If I find them, I'll try to put them in the Amazon store. If you guys find them, let me know, and I will gladly add those to the Amazon store. Trimming is really basic. As you can see here, I'm pretty much just doing it underwater. It's not that big of a deal. You just want to pick in between a node, aka where the leaves are. Want to pick in between there. Give it an old snipperoony. These ones are basically cutting to about, 6 inches tall, something like that. I don't want them to be too long because obviously they're going to grow tall again. So we don't want to encourage and start out with them too tall. Go ahead and plant them into the substrate as pretty much prescribed. It's easy as possible. You just utilize your planting tongs, push them into the spot that you have cleared out. You want to leave a little bit of a gap in between them, maybe a centimeter, something like that. Nothing too outrageous. And I almost always plant everything kind of clumped together so that I can keep track of it, so I can make sure that plants are all growing in the right spot. This tank is getting a little bit disheveled, that's for sure. At some point in time, I will have to redo it, but for now, I'm just kind of dealing with the overcrowding and continuing to just propagate the stuff that I have and keep it growing as healthy as possible. Relocating plants to other areas, other tanks and stuff like that is pretty common. But realistically, I'm just trying to maintain this aquascape and fill it up as much as possible. This is pretty much a testimonial of I'm trying to get the most amount of species to grow healthy all at the same time. And as I mentioned earlier, I still don't know how many are in here. There will come a point when I go ahead and, count them all, list them all, and see what will all grow together. Because that's pretty much my whole goal with this tank, is to figure out exactly how many species from all around the world I can get to grow all in the same conditions. That's pretty much the big question mark that I have. If there is basically a tank condition that will kind of work for pretty much all plants that we use in the hobby. Now, that's not true to a certain degree, but so far I'd say it's about a 90% truth, something like that. It feels like about 1 in 10 plants just don't do well in this setup, and some are just kind of surviving. So that's suboptimal. It's not necessarily what I'm trying to replicate, but we shall see how this project goes. I'm always having fun with it, and I'm pretty happy with most of the result. Our final plant of the day is the LUDWIGIA ARCUATA version, the needle leaf, which just means it's the real thin leafed version. A beautiful, majestic plant that I love a lot. It's deep in my heart. I was growing a really strange varietal of this quite a while ago and had very limited success with it. It was a weird variegated version that I managed to maintain for quite a while, but I never really could get it to grow as well as this very typical type of arcuata I have now. Very easy to grow. So as long as you don't get the super fancy weird kind from some kind of rare list out there, most people should have a lot of success with this really delicate, cool plant. And it's only delicate in its appearance. It actually is a very hardy plant as far as growing. It's quite easy to grow. As you can see here, mine is propagating all of these crazy side shoots, which that's not what I want. I want individual stems to continue to grow so that I can keep the aquascape looking the way that I want it to do. So I'm going all the way down the stem below where the shoots, all the side shoots begin. So I'm trimming all of that excess off, and yes, I am actually leaving the rooted portions in there to continue to propagate, because I am also going to be using this on a project in the future. So I'm actually growing excess of this plant so that I will have it for that project. As you can see from these clusters, like I said, I have all these side shoots, and a big part of that has to do with it getting shaded out by the pogostemon that I actually trimmed earlier in the video. That shading really promotes all these little side shoots, so it is important for me to keep the pogostemon trimmed back where I have this planted, and it will maintain those kind of individual stems is more what I'm looking for. So hopefully that's a tip out there. If somebody out there has an aquarium that is really, really planted, hopefully that maybe helps point you in the direction that I'm headed in. Planting is super simple with this plant. It literally is just take the stem and push it into the substrate. The issue that I'm having right now is overcrowding. Obviously, as you can see, I'm trying to navigate getting into these little tiny spots that I have kind of reserved to fill in these plants, move things out of the way. That's really the issue, but it's not the worst issue in the world to have. It really is something that's just kind of the joy of having an overgrown tank, right? I hope that this was at least a fun watch or something like that for you. If it was, go ahead and hit that subscribe, something like that. I'm just going to let the music play out to the end here, and hopefully you had a good time.